Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Quack&Co, the channel where everything is under 10 minutes all the time, every single time. And this is going to be a new format. We are constantly experimenting with different formats on the channel, so let me know what you like and don't like. But this is going to be why is that game different, or something along those lines. Why is that game worth paying attention to? Maybe that's a better title. We'll figure that out later, but the goal here is this is going to be Mythic Mischief, a game that's currently on Gamefound. You should go ahead and check that out. There's going to be a link down below, but there are so many games that come out every single year, every single day, and this particular series, why is this game different, worth paying attention to, whatever way we choose to go with it, is about, well, what it sounds like. What's different? What's interesting? Why should you be paying attention to this game compared to all the other games out there? Now, this series is only going to be reserved for those games that I actually feel are different and worth paying attention to, more so than just being another good game. There are so many good games. Some of them are just repeats or slight variations of games that already exist, and Mythic Mischief is very much not that game. There was a question posed, so let's give a quick background of the game. Mythic Mischief is going to be an abstract, asymmetric game with a whole bunch of variety of classes. We're going to have the trolls, the zombies, the wizards, the monsters, the witches, and the vampires, and then if you're following the Gamefound campaign, there's also going to be the ghosts as well. It's going to be 7 asymmetric factions with different abilities, all while you try to tactically maneuver around this game. You're going to have the Tomekeeper who's trying to capture the various students and moving every single turn. You are utilizing your abilities to manipulate the board, to manipulate the movement, to manipulate your own movement of your own characters, to move around the walls of the board, and to situationally make sure that, well, you are not caught, or not caught as often as possible, and they are very much caught as often as possible in this game. That's the general goal of the game. Now, to cover why it's different, why it's worth paying attention to, I saw a question posed on a Ask Me Anything somewhere. I don't know exactly where, maybe Instagram. I don't know what it was. But the question was, if you had to choose 2 games that were the parents of Mythic Mischief, what 2 games is Mythic Mischief a combination of? And the IV Games team came up with a variety of answers that, to me, made minimal sense. They were kind of like, we never really thought of that. Maybe these games, I don't know. To me, I have the answer, but I did have to think about it. And the combination for me is going to be Corridor and Scythe. It's an interesting combination of these games, but that is what this game is to me. And it's also going to be compared to Santorini, but we'll get to that. That's not really we'll get to that shortly. But Corridor and Scythe. Corridor is going to be an abstract game of placing walls on a board to manipulate how long it takes your opponent to get to the other side. It's all about the positioning and placement of walls in an abstract 2-player game. And Scythe is going to be a much deeper, much bigger game, but one which has a degree of slightly asymmetric factions, where the abilities all do the same thing, but there's slight asymmetry to the way your action does that same thing. So you're going to have a combination of those 2 facets. And that's as close as I can get when comparing Mythic Mischief to 2 other games. The other game we're going to compare it to is Santorini. Santorini is going to be another game that has abstract combined with powers and abilities that make every single game different. Now, Santorini does so by giving you a single power. A single power you can utilize the whole game, and you can use it more than once depending on the power you choose, but it's a single power that makes you different than your opponent as you face off in a game of abstract strategy. And Mythic Mischief is going to do so differently. It's going to give you factions with multiple powers that are asymmetric. So instead of having 50 cards that are all different, it's going to give you 7 different factions, but all of which have multiple powers and abilities to manipulate this board state to get you the win you want. Where it's going to differ from Santorini, and why I don't think they are that similar past that surface level abstract with powers and abilities, is going to be the spot they fill. You see, Santorini is going to be a game that fits into a 10 to 30 minute time slot of slightly lighter abstract strategy. There are decisions to be sure, but the degree of analysis paralysis, the degree of thinkiness involved in Santorini is much more on the lighter side. That is a game I can knock out easily when I have a free half hour, whereas Mythic Mischief seems like the kind of game that should take half an hour or less, but it's not. It's really going to be, I mean, the box says so, it warns you, it's not like they're lying to you. The box says it's a 45 to 90 minute game, and I think that's apt. I think a round of Mythic Mischief with 2 players is generally going to be, even just 2 players, the game plays 1 to 4, I think it's generally going to wind itself up around that 45-minute mark or more as you sit there and puzzle out every single move. This is a game that has the surface level of Santorini, but is much deeper in the application of the strategy and the ways you can combine, because in Santorini you have a very clear process. You move, you build, you move, you build. The powers will slightly vary how that works. There's a lot of strategy. I'm not saying there isn't. I love Santorini, by the way. It's in my collection. What I am saying is Mythic Mischief has a lot more going on. You're going to have a variety of abilities. You're going to have movement. You're going to have moving your opponents. You're going to have moving walls. You're going to have moving the Tome Keeper. Then you have 2 custom abilities as well on top of all of that. And the way you choose to cash in your actions, as the game progresses, you may have, 8 to 9, 8 to 10 different actions on a single turn. You have to figure out how to use your 8 to 10 actions on that single turn to best mess around with the board. I'd try to show you, but I'd end up staring at the board trying to think through the best way. But let's just go through a sample movement over here. I'm going to go ahead. No, I'm not going to do this. It's not going to work because I'm going to want to think. See, this is the problem. Even me wanting to show you on camera is going to result in me trying to think through the best way to cash in all my actions. How will I move this wall? Maybe I go, I can't. Maybe I go 1, 2, 3, like so, and then I pick up a tome. Let's pretend there's a tome there. I pick up a tome, slot it onto my board somewhere, and then from there I use this wall ability I already used it, but let's use this wall ability to move this wall from adjacent to this witch to over here. And boom, I've just made sure that the Tome Keeper, to get to this one spot over here, now has to walk backwards, which potentially puts me in a position where if I move back over here, when I was over here, I could have turned this down to move this person over here, and then gone there, and then Tome Keeper is now going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, it's sadly not going to actually get that guy, but you can see what I'm going to get there. You have a ton of actions you're going to be utilizing over here, actions that you're going to be trying to manipulate the board state, manipulate the walls, to move the Tome Keeper, to move your opponents, and you're trying to figure out how you can apply all that in a way that you want to win. It has some of the elements of Corridor and Scythe, but the game it's most compared to, in my mind, is Santorini, but it is a deeper, more rewarding, I'll do that again. It's a deeper, more rewarding experience. Mythic Mischief on Gamefound. I really do recommend this one. I think it's really worth paying attention to. It is very different than anything I have played personally, while maintaining aspects of asymmetry, of powers and abilities, of abstract strategy. And we haven't even talked about the Blitz mode. The Blitz mode, that is so ridiculously fun as you go through a timed 4-player game, 2 players, 2 factions each of you on 2 boards, and then going through 2-minute time turns, and every time one of your mythics die, they are dead and gone from the game permanently. That is a fun experience. You should try that too. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Quack&Co. Hopefully I've done a good job convincing you as to why Mythic Mischief is worth paying attention to. Until next time, have a